This next game in the series, Magnus' Rise to the Top, following the book, How Magnus Carlsen Became the Youngest Chess Grandmaster, features a game he played in 2002 in the Norwegian Team Championship against a 2300 player. According to the author, at this stage of his game, he had a great opening repertoire, and his opening was a strong suit due to his really incredible memory that he has. However, his endgame technique still needed some work, which would come along with experience. Anyway, let's dive in and let's take a look at this instructive game. Okay, so Magnus comes out with knight f3. You'll see Magnus plays this later on in his career when he's a grandmaster. This is just typical stuff from Magnus. Just feeling out his opponent. His opponent's doing the same thing. This is equivalent to two professional boxers just feeling each other out. And his opponent, realizing he's playing a kid, and Magnus probably has a reputation by this point, he just wants to err on the side of caution and not do anything, too crazy here. So d6 is the first deviation from the symmetrical position, from each other, from the players mirroring each other's moves. And here we have e5. Now, e5 is striking in the center, challenging the center. Notice how good players always fight for the center. If Magnus takes, he would be losing a central pawn. His opponent would be gaining a central pawn. So we don't play chess like that, really. He plays e4, adding another pawn to the center, strengthening his center. There's that word again, center. Okay, so after a6, rook e1, we have an exchange on d4, and we have f3. Now, f3 might look odd to some of you because it opens up this diagonal, but there's no way black can really exploit it, and Magnus can always hide his king to h1. f3 also just supports this pawn and also guards g4. Okay, so rook b1, a mysterious rook move, okay? But you always want to figure out your opponent's plan every time they make a move, see why they made that move. And why do you think rook b8 was played? Well, it's not too hard to figure out. Rooks like to be behind pawns that are about to be pushed. So black wants to make a break. So b5 is coming at some point, but you always want to make breaks for your opponent's center. Now, the two breaks that black can play is b5 and f5, because to make a break, you have to attack the point pawns, which are the pawns that are most forward in the position. Point pawns is a term that I coined, so don't use it or I'll sue you. Just kidding, I won't sue you. But that's what black wants to do here. Okay, Magnus retreats his knight, and we have knight e5. You might be wondering, why not make this central break now? Because after takes, we would have knight d4, attacking this pawn twice, and also threatening c6, winning material. So black cannot do that. So for that reason, black played knight e5, and Magnus plays b3. Notice how Magnus Carlsen just plays very solid, simple chess. He likes everything protected. He likes his pieces protected. He likes his pawns protected. And also he likes his king protected, which is a good idea. However, this also makes his bishop more versatile, because not only can it come this way, now it can fianchetto come this way, or even to a3 if it wants to. Okay, c5, just clamping down in the center. If black cannot make a central break yet, at least he can play and guard the center here. So that stops the knight from coming to d4, which is good. Magnus plays a5. Now, Magnus, notice how he's putting a lot of attention to that b5 move that black wants to play. He's clamping down on it, not allowing it. Now he has a bind on b5. Notice that Magnus Carlsen is going to develop a strong attack in this game, and there are going to be tactical fireworks, but it all comes from positional nuance. You have to play good positional chess and win the micro battles before you can win the major battle. Okay, so we have knight c6, rerouting the knight and taking the space immediately left behind. a4 also left a hole in his position. So, so he's going to play knight b4, and his knight's going to be solid there. Okay, Magnus develops, knight b4, queen d2, creating a battery on the dark squares. Bishop e6, rook d1, and queen b6. Now, Magnus plays bishop f2 here, but I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait. Magnus made a mistake. I'm better than Magnus because I would have just taken the pawn here. Well, hold on a sec. That would be a mistake because black would take, and after this trade, now we have a fork over here. If you move your rook, you lose the bishop. So you would have to play king f2, but then you would lose the exchange. So for that reason, Magnus played bishop f2. Now that threat is no longer there, so Magnus can win the pawn. Therefore, his opponent, you guessed it, guarded the pawn. Okay, now we have knight f4. Magnus is going for the bishop pair. If you watch my videos and other people's videos, hopefully they mentioned that the bishop pair is an advantage. So black being 2300 is like, no. Sorry, lad. I'm not letting you take the bishop pair. He retreats to bishop c8. Now, bishops are long-range pieces. So whether his bishop's on c8 or e6, it doesn't matter. It still hits the king side all the same. Now we have a move, rook b1. This is a move I probably wouldn't play. Not because Magnus made a mistake, just because I'm not as good as Magnus and I wouldn't play that move. So it looks counterintuitive because the rook was already in the center, but Magnus is like, I like all my pieces protected. I like all my pawns protected. So I'm going to protect this backwards pawn here. So in case he ever moves his knight away, this is not immediately attacking a pawn. Okay, queen c7. And now Magnus plays g4. Magnus starts a kingside attack. And if you watch my videos, you'll say, wait, you're not supposed to push pawns in front of your king. Only if your king's on the other side of the board in an opposite castled king position. However, the reason Magnus can play this is mainly because of these two central pawns here. It's clogging the position, and black cannot easily coordinate an attack. Therefore, Magnus can get away with a kingside attack here with his pawns. g5. g5 stops Magnus from playing g5 himself, also attacking the knight. So Magnus just jumps into the hole on d5. We have an exchange of knights here, and now we have a decision. Do you take with the e-pawn or the c-pawn? Now, both are good, but Magnus took with the c-pawn, which is slightly better. And Magnus probably played this because he's like, I'm going to launch a kingside attack and win on the king side, but I also want to be winning on the queen side too. So I want my pawn echelon facing the queen side. So, okay, black plays, did not play that. Black played h6. Maybe black should have played that. And now Magnus plays a5 himself. Notice how Magnus is putting a lot of attention to clamping down on the queen side before he goes for his kingside attack. Why is that? Because black's counterplay is going to be on the queen side. Magnus is shutting down his opponent's counterplay before he attacks. Why? Because this is chess, not checkers. That's why. So, bishop d7. Now we have h4. So, great move. h4. Now Magnus is ripping open his opponent's king side. And now he kind of forces his opponent to move pawns in front of his king. The problem is black's king is actually going to be weak and Magnus's king is going to be safe. So his opponent takes, and now we have bishop takes on h4, attacking the rook. The rook moves behind this pawn again because he's preparing to, at some point, hopefully he wants to make a break for this on b5. And Magnus just relentlessly attacking the kingside position, wants to rip away all the pawns around the king. So after this exchange, Magnus takes with the queen, and now this bishop is completely pinned, and the queen is facing the king. This is pretty scary, although this is technically, according to the computer, triple zeros, an even game. However, most of you would probably want white here. Just intuitively, white looks like it looks like the easier game to play, which it is. Most players would rather have white here. White has wiggle room to play inaccurately, where black has to play very accurately here. Okay, c4. Now, you might be saying, wait a sec, Magnus made another mistake because his opponent could have just taken that pawn, and now this pawn is passed or will be passed after b5 and this. So why would he let that happen? Well, because of queen g3. Tactics supersede positional chess in the sense that a positional move can't be played sometimes because there's a specific reason, a specific tactic that doesn't allow it. And queen g3 does not allow this pawn grab. Now, why? Well, it's attacking this pawn. But if you defend it, you're getting checkmated in 2 moves. The bishop's pinned to the king. Sayonara. If you defend this somehow and step out of the pin, well, Magnus just takes the pawn. In fact, the best move after queen g3 is this. And now if you take the pawn, black would come back here. Magnus would trade and have a better position. So for that reason, his opponent played c4, going for counterplay. Magnus plays f4. This is a great move. It shows a lot of poise on his part. He ignores the counterplay and goes for his play. This is very, very instructive. Also, so he's preparing to launch a kingside attack, possibly just keep on moving forward. But in the meantime, he's stopping this rook from coming here and deflecting the queen. If the king ever steps out of the pin, the bishop cannot come here now. Also brings room for the rook to slide over to g3, because this pawn on f3 would have stopped that, but now it does not. His opponent keeps on going forward with his counterplay. But the counterplay, the reason why counterplay is because there has to be balance. Your counterplay has to have equal amount of threats that your opponent has, which is the reason why it creates counterplay. But Magnus's attack is very strong, and this counterplay isn't really doing much. Magnus can just sidestep it whenever he wants. So we have rook e3 preparing to go to g3 to go for checkmate. And now his opponent plays queen c5. Queen c5 is pinning the rook to the king. So pause your videos and see what would Magnus play here. So Magnus just simply played bishop f2. Simple chess. Blocking the pin so he can come over here. Not to mention, if he comes here now, it's attacking the queen. If black plays a random move, well, that's pretty disgusting, because now we're threatening checkmate and the queen, you could resign, GG, have a good night. But black's 2300. That's the problem. This isn't, amateur level chess now. This is the big leagues. Black plays c2, which is also not great, but still, he didn't lose the game immediately. Now, Magnus is very, very, patient here. He doesn't just go for something like go for an attack and lose his rook. Obviously, that would be ridiculous. He plays rook c1. He takes time out to sidestep, defend his rook, put pressure on this pawn, and now we have f6. f6 is a move that should have been played probably a couple moves ago, because now it's too late. And now pause your videos, because now Magnus has tactical fireworks here. See what Magnus Carlsen played. Okay, Magnus Carlsen played queen takes g7 here. Yep, queen takes g7. The reason why is because after the king takes, Magnus throws in the check, unveiling an attack on the queen, and after the king moves, he takes the queen and now grabs this pawn. So you don't usually trade queens when you're attacking, but because of the strong attack Magnus had, because of the pressure he was building, it allowed him to release that pressure at the right time to cash in on a pawn. So now Magnus is up a pawn, and not only that, eliminated his opponent's counterplay and also attacking this pawn. Okay, his opponent plays b6, Magnus just takes, and we have rook c8. Now, why didn't he just take? Well, because Magnus would just take this pawn, and he can't take because of that rook. So his opponent wisely plays, after this capture, he plays rook c8, defending first, because Magnus cannot protect this pawn on b6. So Magnus just plays e5 here, and after an exchange here, his opponent played rook f6, and his opponent resigned. Now, why did he resign? Well, because, first of all, there's a basic fork here, which he missed. Now, he was under a lot of pressure here, so, at this point, he just, he just couldn't keep up with Magnus, and that's not even the best move, e6. Rook f2 is the best move, and after the king moves away, rook g8, rook g7, forcing the king back, and then just playing d6, setting up a mating net. So we have to play bishop e8, and now after rook f8, this is just absolutely crushing Magnus has so many ways to win. I mean, this is coming. There's this coming. If that's a thing, there's everything. There's pretty much anything you want, you have. This is absolutely winning position. So very impressive by young Magnus at 11 years old. This game was in 2002 again, the Norwegian Team Championship. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any further content. And also check out this video, also very instructive. Now get out of here, go play some chess.